It's 1:24 a.m. on March 18, 1990, in Boston's Fenway neighborhood. A guard inside the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum hears a buzzer at the side entrance. Two men in police uniforms stand outside, saying they're responding to a disturbance call. He lets them in. What happens over the next 81 minutes will never be fully explained. Boston is quiet that night. St. Patrick's Day celebrations have wound down across the city. The museum sits on the Fenway, a 4-story Venetian-style palace built by a wealthy widow who filled it with masterworks and left behind a will with one strange condition. Nothing may ever be moved, added, or removed on penalty of the entire collection being sold off and given to Harvard. The two officers ask the young guard, Rick Abath, to step away from his desk. He does. Within seconds, they announce he's under arrest. He's handcuffed to a pipe in the basement. His fellow guard is handcuffed beside him, both bound with enough slack that neither one can call for help, but neither one is seriously hurt either. That detail alone tells investigators something. These men weren't here to harm anyone. They were here for something specific, and they seemed to already know exactly how the building worked. They spend the next 81 minutes moving freely through the galleries, alone with $500 million in art and no interruptions. In the Dutch room, they cut Rembrandt's only known seascape from its frame. It's called The Storm on the Sea of Galilee. Next to it, they take his small self-portrait, no larger than a postcard, and a Vermeer titled The Concert, one of only 34 Vermeers known to exist on Earth. Downstairs, in the short gallery, they pull down 5 Degas sketches. In the blue room, they take Manet's Chez Tortoni. They also grab a bronze Chinese beaker called a gu and an eagle finial pried off the top of a Napoleonic flag. 13 objects total, and here's where the case starts to unravel any simple explanation. They leave behind Titians. They leave behind pieces worth more than everything they took combined. Why cut a priceless Rembrandt roughly out of its frame, damaging it in the process, while walking past paintings just as valuable hanging feet away? At 2:45 a.m., the men carry the art out to a car parked outside. They make 2 trips in and out of a museum with a guard bound in the basement and a city sleeping around them. Security cameras captured almost nothing usable. The thieves had disabled the recording mechanism, though motion sensors quietly logged their footsteps through the building. That log would later become one of the strangest pieces of evidence in the entire case. The motion detector shows a set of footsteps in the Dutch room at 1:48 a.m. that doesn't line up cleanly with either thief's known route that night. Some investigators believe there was a third person inside the museum, someone never accounted for, never identified, never seen. If that's true, who were they, and where did they go? At 8:15 a.m., the day shift arrives. They find the side door unlocked. They find empty frames. They find 2 guards missing from their posts, and a mystery already 81 minutes cold before anyone even knew to start the clock. Following the terms of Isabella Stewart Gardner's will, the museum leaves the empty, gilded rectangles exactly where the paintings used to hang. They remain there today, more than 3 decades later, waiting for pieces that may never return. The FBI opens an investigation within hours, and what follows becomes one of the longest manhunts in American criminal history. For years, every lead dissolves into nothing. A psychic insists the paintings are buried in a Connecticut field. Agents dig. Nothing. A tip places the art in Japan, moved through a network of private collectors. Agents fly out. Nothing. In the 1990s, investigators shift their focus closer to home, toward organized crime networks running out of Boston's own neighborhoods. And one name keeps surfacing: Robert Guarente, a Boston-area mobster with ties to a Philadelphia crime family. Guarente dies in 2004, taking whatever he knew to the grave. But years later, his widow comes forward. She tells the FBI that her husband handed at least one of the stolen paintings to an associate named Robert Gentile in a parking lot in Portland, Maine. Gentile denies it, flatly, every time he's asked. Investigators search his Connecticut home in 2012. They find a police uniform hanging in a closet, decades out of date, the exact kind the thieves wore. They find a handwritten list, tucked away, with the stolen artworks named beside estimated black market values. What they do not find is any actual art. Gentile dies in 2021, having never been charged in connection with the theft itself, and having never once broken his denial. In 2013, the FBI makes its boldest public statement yet. They believe they know who committed the robbery. They believe the thieves were connected to a criminal organization based in the Mid-Atlantic and New England, and that in the years after the theft, the art moved through Connecticut and Philadelphia before the trail went cold sometime around 2003. They release no names. And here's the detail that changes everything about how this case can end. The statute of limitations on the robbery itself expired. Nobody can be prosecuted for the theft anymore. Only for possessing or trafficking the stolen work today. Which means whoever has the paintings right now has no legal reason to come forward, and every reason in the world to stay silent. The reward for their return has climbed to $10 million, one of the largest bounties ever offered for stolen property. It hasn't produced a single solid lead in over a decade. So why these 13 objects? Why take a handful of minor Degas sketches and an eagle finial with almost no resale value? 3 theories keep circulating. The first, the job was rushed and amateurish. The choice is too erratic for anything but a panicked, opportunistic grab in the dark. The second, it was commissioned. That someone wealthy and specific wanted exactly those 13 objects for reasons no investigator has ever reconstructed, and the mismatched value was never the point. The third, and the one that unsettles investigators most, the art was used for decades as underworld collateral, passed quietly between crime figures as a kind of insurance policy nobody could ever cash in without exposing themselves to a federal trafficking charge. There's also a darker possibility nobody likes saying out loud, that the paintings were destroyed years ago by someone panicking under pressure, and that the frames on the wall in Boston are now memorials to something that no longer exists anywhere. The FBI has said publicly that it believes with a high degree of confidence that it identified the men responsible years ago. Both are now dead. If that's true, the last people who knew exactly what happened inside that building took the full story with them, and the case may never fully close, even if the art itself resurfaces tomorrow. Isabella Stewart Gardner's will didn't just require the museum to stay frozen in time. It required that if any piece was ever removed and not returned, the empty space stay empty forever, a permanent visual record of the loss. She couldn't have known how literal that would become. Today, visitors walk the same galleries the 2 men walked in 1990. They pass through the Dutch Room, past the bare frame where the storm on the Sea of Galilee used to hang, gold trim wrapped around nothing but wall. The frame is still bolted in place. It has been for 35 years.